Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Normally I am interviewing community members, but today I wanted to take a different spin at things. I actually wanted to interview members of the developer community, folks that are making the apps that you and I come to love and utilize in the Atlassian Marketplace.
And when I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal. When I feel like this, I'm immortal.
Today we're going to kick things off with Girish from Onward, and we're going to be talking about their app. We're going to be talking about why they did it and the motivation behind it, and hopefully learn a thing or two about what it takes to create an amazing app for the Atlassian Marketplace.
Thank you, Alex. Good to see you.
All right, well, we'll get right into it. Let's just talk about your origin story. I love asking people this question because I like finding out, where do people come from? Like, walk us through your background. What got you to this space? How did you become a developer? Talk about how your app came to be, or apps. And yeah, go ahead.
Sure. Would love to. Thanks again for having me. Onward is a company that my co-founder Prabhu and I started a few months ago. And prior to Onward, Prabhu and I started another company called SpringML in 2015. But my background before that was mostly in HR. So I used to work for a HR software company called Workday, popular SaaS.
Very familiar with them.
Yeah, very popular. They've done very well. And my career, itself started around in 2000 when I was a developer and in the support team for a company called Web Methods. In fact, that's where Prabhu and I met. We were in the same team. And over the years, used a lot of technologies. One of the common tools that most developers are used to is Jira, of course. So it's like a nice coming back to Jira tools now, developing tools for other users. So that's a quick overview. Our primary focus at Onward has been to be in the HR space, building applications for worker engagement, leveraging the power of Jira, as well as Jira Service Management. So that's in a nutshell.
Awesome. And so why the focus on the HR apps, though? Obviously, you have a background in there, but I think one of the things that you and I spoke about earlier in the week when we met was so many of the apps in the Atlassian Marketplace help folks from like achieve more from a technical perspective. But when we look at your app here, it's more on the people side of the house. It's more on the psychology of getting teams to work together. So what was the thought process there? And when you guys had to make that decision, what did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, partly it was, of course, background that we had in HR and HR software, but really it was mostly driven off of our experience as developers, as members of delivery and support organizations, the challenges that one faces when working with each other in a team environment. Those type of challenges are what we wanted to address. For example, if I go back again, 15, 16 years when we were part of the support team at Web Methods, it was great company, great team, but sometimes being in that kind of a service delivery role, it's a thankless job, right? You're constantly working on issues. You're working with potentially customers who may not be satisfied, so they may be showing their frustration. So, those are things that kind of weigh on you day in and day out. And having a kind of an environment that is supportive of each other and promotes positive work, I think that goes a long way. So that was one of our prior experiences. Most recently, of course, with our company that we formed, SpringML, a services organization, especially in this world of remote work, right? Everybody is remote, even if they're coming in, probably not every day. So how does one ensure that the culture is preserved, that feeling of belonging to the company? That is something that we experienced at SpringML. And, that was one of the motivations where having tried several different things within that company, we knew that it was something that is not readily available in the market, and we wanted to offer something within the Jira and Atlassian ecosystem for companies to use a application that will help with that motivation, helping build the camaraderie, especially, again, like I said, remote, global, distributed workforce. Those are the things that we wanted to hit on.
So I was gonna ask you, what was the motivation behind building it? But obviously, the motivation was the motivation,
Exactly.
or the lack of motivation was the motivation.
Absolutely, we identified that. Yep. Well
Yeah.
put.
So let's skip that question because I think you very eloquently answered that. But so let's dig a little deeper. I kind of like finding out as well, like what challenges did you and your co-founder have here when creating this application?
Sure. Yeah. You know, maybe I can give you a background. We had a background in developing applications, whether it's mobile apps, iOS, Android, or even web applications with React and such. So we had a good understanding of the tech stack. In our previous experience, we built those apps on the cloud, AWS or Google Cloud, standing up the environment, standing up the infrastructure, ensuring security, scalability, all of those things we had done. And when we came to Atlassian, one of the nice things that we liked about, especially we are building the apps for the cloud on Forge, is the way Atlassian has packaged that development framework, Forge, with the ability to build applications without focusing on the infrastructure, without having to stand up infrastructure from the ground up. The tech stack itself, the Forge tech stack itself, is based on mostly open source like React and Node. So that's a skill set we did not have to learn from ground zero. We had enough skill set. We just needed to adapt to how Atlassian packages the framework and the guardrails that they put in. So those are the really things that caught our attention and helped us move fast. So that's how we got started. In terms of challenges, we relied a lot of the documentation, a lot of good documentation out there that we had to.
I laugh because I've been trying to create a Forge app for what seems to be 6 months now, and holy moly, is it hard.
Well, we do like the documentation. We did not have that many challenges in terms of getting started. I think once we were getting closer to publishing the app, the nuances around security, at least in terms of ensuring the best practices are followed, those are the things, because now we are making the app live, right? We want to make sure everything is watertight. Those are the things that we had to focus on. But to be honest, it was we have a good team. It's a small team, but a couple of developers who are very very savvy in React and Node, so they were able to pick it up very quickly, and we were able to get going rather smoothly. One of the things that you may know Matt Muskell. He maybe you don't, but he has a very nice course on Udemy.
Yeah, that's the only reason. That's the only way we got started was through that course. Because without that course, we were like, where, how do we even start? Because Atlassian gives you that little example.
Yes.
And then it's like, then you got you went from that little preschool class to college in 2 seconds, and there's nothing in between to get you there.
Yes.
So Matt, that class is definitely very recommended.
Very highly recommended. I think I've chatted with Matt a few times. I think he's done a great job on that. So that helped us a lot, and our developers, we all took that class. It goes through a lot of detail, and that helped us get going.
Nice. So you kind of answered this question a little bit too, but I kind of just want to hone in on a little bit more. But out of all the places that you can create apps, right? There's obviously Monday.com and Rally and version 1 and stuff like that. Why settle on Atlassian? What was the thought process there? How did you and your team decide Atlassian was what we were going to focus on?
We wanted to, firstly, look at a company that has a marketplace. We did not want to build something from scratch and be a standalone vendor, rather tie with a company that has a marketplace. Again, in our prior experience, we've partnered with the likes of Salesforce. They have a very vibrant app marketplace as well. But when we were looking at what to do next, we found Atlassian is one of the, I would say, almost very few enterprise companies today that have that vibrant, thriving marketplace. Customers, users are very familiar with the marketplace. We felt that the users' DNA, if you will, is also to go explore apps. They're not afraid of trying an app, and I think that's generally, we felt it's a part of the mentality of users to rely on Jira as a core offering, but definitely are not shy about trying apps from the marketplace. So we felt that there's a lot of apps there. So that was a very motivating factor for us. The other one was, obviously, Jira has been around for a while, and I would love to get your take on how it has evolved over the years. But more recently, with the focus on JSM, JWM, work management, that fit in well with what we wanted to do with HR and HR applications. So those 2 or 3 things convinced that this is a good starting point.
That's a really good perspective, and so I'll share a little bit about kind of what you asked there. So I came in through the world of Jira as a software developer, having to track my tasks, right? It was my very first introduction, Agile team, Jira, like a really good tool for that. But over the years, that was 7 years ago now, right? 6-7 years ago. But over the years, like, you have definitely seen Atlassian's pivot, right? Where it was this like super developer-centric tool made by developers for developers type of thing, right? It was a bug tracker, for crying out loud, right? Nobody else in the world is tracking bugs but developers, right? And so it's been interesting to see over the years, as even as we get new products like product discovery, right? Changes and enhancements coming to work management and things like Jira Service Management, right? Where you can definitely see Atlassian's pivot from just focusing on these software engineering or just engineering type companies, technical companies, to like, let's make this a tool that works for a company, for a team. And then you can see that, right? Like the whole team conference, right? They don't, hardly anything in the presentation was about software engineers, right? It was all about collaboration and talking with each other, and impossible alone, possible together, right? With this whole team camaraderie type of thing. And so this is kind of why I'm really excited about your app, because I always tell folks that, like, you can get a group of people to work together and you're going to get mediocre results, right? But until you really have a team that trusts each other and that really like has value on each other, and they know that they have each other's backs, you don't get a high performance team until you can get to that level of trust, right? And so recognition is a really big part of it, right? Like so many, like I've had a 13-year career at this point, and it sucks when you go above and beyond, or at least your perception of like you went above and beyond, you try to do something, you stayed up all night, or you did something really hard, and like crickets, right? Like nothing, no recognition. And again, so half the people argue like, well, I'm just doing my job. But the other half, right, is like there's a lot of psychology and human behavior into like what motivates us as individuals. And just like these very, very subtle, like just a thank you, right, can go so far sometimes, right? That just adding a little bit more into that recognition system, right? Because one of the features of your app that we'll be talking about when I do the product showcase is that I love the idea that you can do the custom rewards. I just completely fell in love with the fact that I've never ever has sat down with the CEO of a company and just hung out with them, right? And like I would ask him a million questions of like, how did you become the CEO? Like, what keeps you up at night? But CEOs like hardly ever have time for their employees, right? And so like I was like, when I saw that example that you guys had, like lunch with the CEO, I was like,
right,
the things I would do, right? The things that I would like that I would physically do, the mountains that I would move to just spend 30 minutes with the guy that makes the billions of dollars for the company would be just like unimaginable, right? So like I just Sorry, big old tangent, but I thought that was like the coolest thing in the world when I saw that.
Right. No, thank you. Because I think what you said is spot on, right? The technical team members, you know, they work well in silos sometimes. You know, great developers can produce a lot of work on their own. But how do you get that, you know, 1+1 = 3 type of effect? And this app is one way. Obviously, we don't
Yeah.
claim this is the only way, but being able to recognize that, you know, in a remote distributed environment, or, you know, sometimes even in person, people are craving, like you said, they do crave for some kind of a recognition. It doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be even monetary, but some recognition. And what we felt was, you know, there are all obviously the formal recognitions and performance reviews and bonuses and all those things that come, if you will, top down from management. But when you get a award, a recognition from a peer, you know, maybe a project manager or somebody from another department, that shows that they have observed, you know, they've gone that extra step to recognize you. That helps a lot in terms of the motivation. So
Yeah,
that's something
kudos can go a very, very long way.
yes.
Yeah. And the other part that I kind of want to mention here is like when you're talking with like engineers, right? Like there's a stereotype of engineers being very quiet, very, very shy, not people that are very extroverted, right? They're very much introverted to themselves. But as you get the rest of the company coming in, you get different backgrounds, you get different ways of motivation, right? Like different individuals are expecting to be, again, rewarded differently, right? Because most engineers are be like, I don't care about the things, right? Like I'm just doing my job. But then as you bring on different departments, your HR departments, right, your legal departments, your marketing departments, like those folks, they're different, using different parts of their brain, right? And so again, I really, really like that this app just benefits everybody, I think, in my opinion.
That's true. Yep.
So moving on to the next question. What's the biggest lesson you've learned since starting this out then? Like now that you've got this rolling for some time, right? Like obviously we talked about some of the challenges, but what's like a good lesson that comes to your mind that you're like, what would you do differently?
You know, this journey, I mean, we are still quite new, you know, 2 to 3 months in. We have our first app and we have our next, you know, couple of applications that are.
Well, you're talking to us here, so you're clearly on the right direction.
Yep. Thank you. But in terms of the lessons learned, I think, you know, one of the things that, you know, is key for us is to get in front of the customers, getting their feedback, hearing from them directly, right? You know, what kind of challenges they're facing. And even when we are building the app, getting feedback, you know, signing them as either design partners or just generally giving some feedback. What we have found, first of all, is the community is very supportive in that sense. So that's something that we learned to probably rely on that community, because you know, they are very happy to get on a call, provide feedback, talk about the challenges that they are facing. You know, for one of our next applications, which is to help with onboarding, employee onboarding, we've been talking to at least 2 or 3 customers, and they've, you know, gone through a lot of details about how they do onboarding, what are the gaps and such. So that helps us define our feature set, define our roadmap, so that you know, it's a lot more relevant. So that is one thing that we want to keep in mind, and rely on the community as much as possible.
Yeah. And now that you've gone through these motions, right, that you got this actually app published in the marketplace, what's one thing from the Atlassian Marketplace perspective that you think could use some improvement, or that you would change, or that could be streamlined a little bit more? Like, what would make your life easier?
I think
is it like promotion, right? Does Atlassian even help promote the apps? Like, because you know, with the Apple App Store, right? They're like featured new and notable. Does like Atlassian even do something like that?
Exactly. They have something called staff pick. And what we understood is they are working to enhance that area. Probably they recognize that that needs a little bit of improvement. So that's the biggest help that Atlassian can provide. The other marketplace, listing, publishing, and going through the reviews, all of that works. Maybe there are a few kinks here and there, but not a big deal. But for us, as a new vendor, being able to reach customers, being able to be visible to customers that, hey, there is an app that can benefit them. And there is something called staff pick. And what we understood is Atlassian is working on some new algorithm or new way to get more visibility in a kind of a fair way to many vendors. So looking forward to that. That'll be a great benefit, great help.
Yeah. And a couple more questions here so we can start wrapping things up. But what excites you the most about the future of your app and of Atlassian?
For us, what excites us most is the fact that the focus area that we have chosen, HR and worker engagement, I think this is an area that is well recognized within the industry. Customers, a lot of companies, organizations are looking to figure out the best way to motivate and get the teams to be much more productive and such. So that we feel good about that. And it also, the fact that Atlassian themselves are also focusing in that direction. So JSM is one of their focus areas, and HR within JSM is also a focus area that they want to keep building upon as they expand their portfolio and as they look at their revenues in the next 1 to 3 years or longer. We saw that JSM and HR, one of the key verticals that they're going to drive. So those things motivate us. We want to continue to build deeper applications that solve specific problems. So in those areas.
Awesome. And what secret would you have for folks that are kind of new to the trying out and making an app? Like what would you propose to somebody? Obviously we talked about the course, right? But like anything else, any other tips that you would give to somebody that's like maybe interested in breaking into this space and making their own app for the first time?
I think if they're looking to see which marketplace or which application platform to build on, I think they should very seriously look at Atlassian to begin with, and Forge. I think Forge is a way, allows developers to quickly build something. If they have the right use case, they'll be able to quickly build it out. Like I was saying earlier, without worrying about the infrastructure and such. From there, they can expand depending on their app and the use case and the kind of technical stack that they have. But if developers are looking to build an app, they have a background in standard web app development. If they have that background, Forge and Atlassian would be a good starting point.
Cool, awesome. Any questions you have for me?
How's your experience with, you mentioned like 5-6 years ago, you got into the Atlassian ecosystem, right?
Yeah.
When we look at Atlassian ecosystem and from our experience, compared with other ecosystems, the culture is different in a very, very positive way, right? Like I was saying, community is supportive. There's a lot of, online resources available. So we see that, very good positive vibes, if you will, when we interact with others. How's your experience been over the last 5-6 years?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. One that has definitely evolved over time. Very similar to like just the story I was telling you about, like how I first started out with Jira. But overall, the community was something that I never thought I would get into. Like when I first started doing like this YouTube channel stuff, I didn't really even know that there was an Atlassian community, right? Like I just recorded the videos because I was like, what do I know? What can I teach somebody? Because I originally was doing cybersecurity. And so I just started making Jira videos and just putting them up, not knowing or not expecting that there would be like a community or that I'd be able to tap into a community, right? And it wasn't really until like literally April of this year that I went to the team conference that I got to meet those community leaders, a couple of them, like Brittany Joyner and the Jira guy Ronnie, had attended like some of my live streams and stuff like that. They've done some comments on Twitter and like on LinkedIn, but I didn't know that Atlassian is like nurturing this like community that they value very, very highly, right?
Right.
And it's like it's really, really amazing to just see the effort that Atlassian puts into like creating this sense of like just peers that love the product, that love the brand, that use the tools every day, and that are just like generally excited to teach others about it, right? And I'm never in my career, because I've been in IT my whole career, dealing with all kinds of IT tools with across like the Microsoft stack and even the Linux community and stuff like that. There's always been forums, right? There's always been these like ask a question, somebody who's done it before is going to answer the question type of situation. But I've never seen a community where it's like I feel like they're friends, right? And I know what they look like, and we talk to each other, and we have events together, and we go into these like annual conferences together, right? And it's not something like, again, that I've seen in other IT tools. And I just thought it was really interesting. I've asked my peers, right, like what makes this Jira and Atlassian thing so special, because it just doesn't make sense. Like how Atlassian almost has like a cult following, right? Like there's diehard fans that like love this stuff, right? And I just, again, not something that I've experienced. I've asked a couple of other members, right? Like ClearCase and ClearQuest is the only other product that people were like gun ho, right? They're like, they love that tool, but there's no community around it. There was a lot of love for it, but there wasn't a place to express that appreciation. And I think, again, what Atlassian is doing here is just like really, really interesting. And we always have criticism. We always wish that they can do more. For example, I am not even a member of the Atlassian like community leaders. They won't let me in because I haven't answered enough questions. And so they have some weird rules, right? They have like a creators program for like people that make content for Atlassian, but I don't qualify because I need to be one of the leaders first. And so it's like a whole thing. So there's definitely some criticisms and some levels of improvement that can be made. But again, it's not, I think I wouldn't say unprecedented, but it's definitely what makes Atlassian stand out and be much more friendlier, right? I think from so many different people that can come to this tool, it's like drinking water from a fire hydrant, right? It's a lot to take in when you're jumping into Confluence or into Jira, and knowing that there's like a place where you can go learn stuff, where you can go and ask questions, where you can see a public roadmap, where you can see changes that are coming, and where there's genuinely people that are excited to help out, vendors that are excited to expand and extend on the powers of Jira, right? I think this is just, again, not something. The only other place I see that kind of stuff is like in the Apple world, in the Tesla world, where there's a lot of brand recognition and a lot of brand respect and love, right? And so that's kind of the only closer communities and areas that I would see. But yeah, I don't see this in Azure DevOps. I don't see this with like Monday.com, right? ClickUp, right? There's like, they try to do a lot of social media presence, but there's not a lot of fan people that are just like, I'll take a bullet for Atlassian type of thing, right?
No, that's a good observation, and agree with you wholeheartedly, because and it's not like a something that happened overnight, right? The community
20 years in the making.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I'm glad they did that, right? I think they took the right approach, because especially like going to the conference, right? Like you can't see Jira or Confluence or any of the Atlassian products as like an IT tool, like, because I've worked with so many IT tools, right? Like Exchange, Office, right? Like Teams, Slack, right? Like those are just like tools. But when you go look at Jira, like there's a passion for this thing, and I don't understand why. But I don't have the same passion for Slack, and I use Slack almost every day too.
Right.
And so, yeah. Well, anyways, thank you so much for coming on, Girish. I really, really enjoyed the time here. And again, thank you for being the inaugural, like, let's interview developers. I did interview Biro and Nikki. And the interview was supposed to be around the Atlassian community, but I totally took it as to like, how did you build your app? But that's still going to be part of the, like, it wasn't the intention. I accidentally took it that way. So this was the first episode where my intention was like, not a bait and switch, because I really do feel like I baited switch. I don't know if you heard of Nikki and Biro from Jexo, now acquired by AppFire, right? But we were going to ask them these questions, and I didn't even ask them the questions that I typically ask. It was like literally like, how did you guys build your awesome apps and how did you come up with the names and stuff like that? But you're the first person where I'm like, okay, we're actually gonna talk about being the developer, right? Not the community member from the Atlassian. So thank you very much. To wrap things up, right? Obviously, links down below for the application. Go give it a try. There's a 30-day trial, and you're gonna want to use this, right? I think if your team's maybe struggling, maybe your team's just kind of not 100% there, and you want to give them a little motivation, a little oomph, right? A little bit of just positivity in their lives. Definitely go check out Onward's application here for the Atlassian Marketplace. And again, link's going to be down below. Start a free trial. And don't forget to leave a review. It really does help out the developers when you leave a review. It helps other people know that this app is awesome. And let the developers know what you think about it. And so to wrap this up, Girish, obviously you can do your own spiel here, but where can people find you?
I think when you put the link, the marketplace link is the best way to find us. There is the demo, contact us, etc. But my email address is girish@onward.com. So that's the easiest way to find us.
Cool. Well,
and great being here. Thank you for your time, Alex. Good questions. Enjoy the conversations. And your videos are great. I did not check out the other one, the Nikki's YouTube video.
It hasn't gone out yet. It'll go out in August, but you'll
okay. So I'll wait for that.
You'll probably still be the first one then, because there's not slated for like middle of August.
I see. Okay.
Right. Well, thank you very much again, and we'll have to do this. I think we should do I should be doing like a every 6-month check-in with the developers that I'm going to start doing this to see how things are evolving for them. Like, do things get better when you come on Ape Tech?
Yeah. Would love to.
All right.
Love to.
Yeah. Well, thank you again.
Thank you, Alex.
I love the chase and the hunt, and I set the pace when I'm running. I always take what I want and I always give it 100. Don't need